So what do we have next? We have the most important nutrient in our toxic society, fat. And what does fat do? Fat gives us the most powerful amount of energy that we can have. It lubricates our system, it protects it, and it makes solvents to clean the body. 3 important processes, very important processes in a toxic world. What happens in a thin person if they don't have fats to arrest the poisons? It goes into their cells and damages them terribly. So, everybody should get fat in our society, especially if you haven't been on a raw food diet long enough. I'm just going to take a moment and get her something. It's honey and coconut cream. Just take your finger in it. There you go. You take more than that. It'll soothe your throat. Get more. And just leave it in your mouth. Just leave it in your mouth and it'll drip down to your mouth, okay? There you go. It'll soothe your throat, okay? You're welcome. Okay, so fats. You notice that in all the research there is out there, where do they find the largest concentrations of fat? I mean, the largest concentrations of poisons in the body, toxins, in the fat. The fat does not get harmed by these toxins. It buffers it, absorbs it. If they're live white cells, blood cells, which are mainly made of fat, yeah, they can be damaged. But when it's pure fat, there's no damage. If you don't have the fat, the body goes in and pulls it out of wherever the fat, they can find the fat, and that's mainly in the nervous system. The brain and nervous system are 60 to 80% fat. The tissue of it, the myelin. The whole brain itself, 60 to 80% fat. Yes, if somebody calls you a fathead, you say, thank you. Because I'm protected. The brain's protected. If you don't have a fat head, you're in trouble. Because those poisons are going to damage the neurons. And you're going to lose more and more brain cells. Of course, we have the biggest brain of all species, right? But we're the dumbest. We're the only ones that pollute and kill each other like for oil and garbage, you know? Why? Because we don't have a healthy brain. We don't think properly because there's toxins there. There's industrial toxins. Take a look at the way humans used to be 100 years ago. Dedicated family people, very compassionate people considering everything and their hardships and not having the industrial society that we do. And they were all always tight-knit. Of course, they feuded, between, races and stuff like that. But when it came to the family unit, they were much more grouped together, and you didn't have all the needs, constant needs, because you're not well. Nobody's satisfied today. Back then, it was easy to be satisfied. You had healthy food right off the earth, no pollution in it. Everybody was pretty happy. A lot of you are unhappy because you are not healthy enough to be happy. Your body's craving something all the time. How are you psychologically, emotionally ever going to be happy unless you can please the body? It is your married until death partner. There's no divorce unless you take a gun or some other means to kill yourself. But it's till death do you part. You better love your mate. And that is your first and ultimate mate. How's it going to be happy? Explore that. Wonder why so many people have so much And they're never satisfied. Why? There's something wrong there. And I watch these African American children and adults working so hard in the field, so many hours, and then they get home and they eat their one cooked meal a day, and they're dancing and singing for 2 or 3 hours before they go to sleep. Dancing and singing and rejoicing. You know? You guys work 8, 10 hours a day, you come home and brood all day and watch TV. Why? It doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way. And I'm going to help you find a way out of it if you don't want to be in that state. Okay? So, fats are the most important nutrient to protect you. I'm going to give you an example. Once a year, I go to Asheville, North Carolina. And there is a group called Earth Haven. They're all old-time hippies, and I mean older than I am. And I'm 60, and these people, some of them are older. And they were long-term vegetarians. We're talking 35, 37 years, down to 22 years was the youngest. Vegetarian that long. All of them sick. One of them there went on the diet in the closet for a whole year. And this guy really had raccoon blackness all around here, gray skin, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, couldn't digest a thing, allergic to everything. He couldn't even breathe with ease and comfort. So he went on the diet, and in the closet, the whole years go by. And what are you doing? What's changing about you? You know, why are you going through this? He wouldn't tell them, because he knew that if he told them, everybody there was strict vegetarian, die-hard evangelistic vegetarian, so he didn't tell them. But finally, the results were so tremendous at the end of the year, he told them. 20% of them freaked out, 80% of them went on this diet. 80% of them. They started raising pigs, goats, cows, milk, chickens, everything. The whole place changed in like 3-5 months. Completely changed around. Became very happy. They asked me to come and lecture there. So my third year there, all of a sudden this guy comes in and he looks like he came right out of a motorcycle gang. I went, woo! I looked at him, I'm doing his consult, and I said, it doesn't make any sense. I said, your organs inside look pretty good. You almost look like you're only 30 years old. And he's about 55, 56. And I said, look, I can tell by your skin, because the poisons come out of the skin, remember, like I told you? Most of them come out the skin. His skin was so damaged, it looked like he had done alcohol and drugs for about 25 to 30 years. So I said, I can see the damage that you did, yet iridologically, I could see that his glands and organs inside were relatively clean. And I said, it doesn't make any sense, because you're only like maybe 30 pounds overweight, 25. And he said, 4 months ago, before I started on your diet, I was 300 pounds. Even with bad fat, it protects you. Even bad fat protects you. So people who are overweight and fat, be happy, because your insides have been protected better than anybody else who's thin and pretty. Pretty. 100 years ago, if you were a skinny woman, you wouldn't even have been chosen to be a wife or a mother, because the chance of your dying in childbirth and making it through a winter were minimal. So it was the voluptuous woman. And you've heard the phrase fat and happy. You've got some buffer there. You've got some ease. And that's the way I like people to be, especially if they're sick. Get fat. And I'm talking fat. You say, well, Aajonus, you're not very fat. Yes, I am. I'm 26% body fat. You know what 26% body fat on is a man? That's obese, according to our science. But I only look like I'm maybe 12, 15% body fat. Why? Because fat molecules, when they're raw, are small and tiny. When you cook fat molecule, it swells just like popcorn. Little grain, pop, big. 10 to 50 times its normal size when you cook fat. So I have all this fat on me, but it's distributed pretty well, and it's solid. Everywhere it's solid in my tissues because it's good, strong fat. Takes a long time to get those old fats out to get the system down. I've been, 30 years doing this, eating raw. 36 years eating raw. Eating raw meat only since 1976, September of 76, when I ate that rabbit. My introduction. Actually, the Eskimos gave me the introduction, but that was high meat, very high meat. And they called it high because it makes them high and happy. Why would it make them high and happy? Going back to protein. Why would rotten meat, spoiled rotten meat, make you high and happy? Remember I told you about the E. coli breaking down the protein into the finite molecules that could feed the brain and nervous system? Guess what those molds and bacteria do? They pre-digest it for you. You can absorb it in 20 minutes in your system. That's why I advocated in my book eating high meat for anybody who has psychological problems. And the psychological problems usually disappear 10 to 20 minutes after you eat them. And it may last for 24 hours, it may last 6 hours, it may last for a week. Depends upon your system, how starved your nervous system and brain are. So back to the fat again. This guy was able to sustain all of his cocaine, all of his drug problems and alcohol because he had all of this fat on his body. Fat, fat, fat. I have 3 wardrobes. I go from a 30-inch waist to a 37. So I have a 31 and 32s that I wear, and then I have my 34s that I wear, and then I have my 36s that I wear that stretch to 37. 3 wardrobes, so I allow myself to go up and down. Now, in my book, in the Recipe for Living Without Disease, I suggest that you gain the weight. 6 months later, you take it off. 15, 20 pounds, more if you can handle it. But that's just something I do because so many people are afraid they're not going to lose the weight. When you're on a raw diet, that fat can go very quickly. Very quickly.